Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 14, One Door Closes. And this episode was amazing, and this was by far the best episode of the season. I mean, we got so many answers in this episode. Not only did it tell us why this whole new S.H.I.E.L.D. was formed, but it also showed, a lot more stuff with Mack and Bobbi, and one of the best decisions they've ever made is have Adrian Palicki join, the main cast, because Bobbi had so much more to do in this episode, and it was amazing, and it just might be the best episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., period. I mean, best episode of the season, and might just be best episode of the entire show because of what this episode showed. But let's just get into it because it was amazing. And we actually started this episode off with the day S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, which I thought was amazing to see because we never actually watched it, and I thought it was really well done here. So, Hydra agents are holding Mack and several other agents prisoner on a helicarrier, and the head agent is guarding them, shouts out the TV, demands that the ship's chief engineer identifies himself, and another agent, Tim McGuire, claims that he is, but Mack hastily says that he is, and the leader shoots Tim dead and demands the ship's schematics, and Bobbi bursts in and kills all the other agents except the leader, who uses a prisoner as a shield, and however, Izzy kills him with a knife to the back, and Mack closes Tim's eyes, and Bobbi warns him that Hydra's everywhere, and Izzy says that Fury gave them orders to save S.H.I.E.L.D., and that shows right away why they created this shield, because they need to save S.H.I.E.L.D., and the only way to do that was to create another shield. So then we go back to the present, and Bobbi returns to base and guts the power lines inside the bus, and Coulson finally lets Mack take a look at Lola, and Bobbi comes over and says that Lance has disappeared, because of course they don't know where Lance went, and she apologized for letting things get out of hand between the two of them, and Coulson says that he's put out feelers of his own, and they'll soon know where he stands, and once she leaves, Coulson tells Mack that the path they've chosen doesn't leave much room for trust, and meanwhile, because he doesn't really know if he can trust them, plus he has no idea about this shield, but what he doesn't realize is that they're working against him. They're not working with him, they're working against him, so Bobbi goes to the server room, avoiding the security cameras, and attaches an EMP device to the circuits. So at the cabin, Daisy talks to Jemma by video, and I was very interested in seeing where they were actually going to go with Daisy in this episode, because, as we know, Daisy was, left Coulson's team and is no longer part of Coulson's team because they kicked her out of Coulson's team, and I was interested in seeing what was going to happen since she left Coulson's team. So basically, Jemma assures Daisy that Melinda will be there soon and suggests that she try on the gloves so she'll be safe. And once Jemma signs off, Fitz comes over and asks how her science experiment with Daisy's going. And he doesn't believe her when she says that she's trying to help because, he still doesn't think that she should be butting in. He doesn't really trust her. And I really like seeing that. I think it's really well done the way they're handling it, and I definitely really enjoyed that. So Coulson talks about the replica of Lola that Mack gave him and says that he found a component that Mack put into it. He advises Mack to tell him what he's after, and Bobbi then goes to Coulson's lab and opens the container holding Nick Fury's toolbox, and Mack insists that he's loyal to S.H.I.E.L.D. and works for them, and every worker in the Bay draws guns on Mack, and this was incredible to see. Coulson figures that Mack is working with Bobbi and has a worker contact, Melinda, and that was such an amazing scene. I mean, Coulson now knows what's going on. He knows that Bobbi and Mack are working together, and he knows it's against them. What he doesn't realize is that it's not Hydra, it's another S.H.I.E.L.D., and that Coulson's, team is not S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'll get to that. There's a great scene about that in this episode, but Bobbi then extracts the toolbox just as Melinda arrives and trains a gun on her. Melinda demands answers, and Bobbi insists that Coulson isn't S.H.I.E.L.D., and she works for the real S.H.I.E.L.D., and I love that she said that because it's true. Coulson is not S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson's S.H.I.E.L.D., it's not really S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore because S.H.I.E.L.D. was brought down. There's a new S.H.I.E.L.D. that they've been working in the whole time, and she then leaps out the window and runs, and Melinda goes after her into the mess room. Bobbi drops the black box, then attacks Melinda. The two women struggle, and it's an awesome fight scene, honestly. This was so awesome to see. Melinda manages to draw her gun, and Bobbi shorts out the power using the device she planned earlier, then runs off into the darkness with the black box. So Mack takes advantage of the darkness to escape, and Melinda finds Fitz and goes to Coulson, and Fitz reports that the scanner in the RC Lola that sought out vibranium, he goes to the server room to initiate a manual lockdown while Melinda tells Coulson what Bobbi said. And Coulson has no idea what the fuck's Bobbi is talking about, obviously. He's like, what the fuck is she talking about? What is this other S.H.I.E.L.D.? Like, how are we not S.H.I.E.L.D.? And I just love seeing how unaware Coulson is of it all, because it's really well done. And it especially works now that we have these flashbacks in this episode, because we then go back to the day S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, and Mack and the others are making their way to the conference room, and there's Robert, because, of course, we want to know why are they working with Robert, and we realize why. They identify themselves with the proper codes, and Robert points out the corpse of the Hydra agent who injured his leg. So then we go back to the president. Bobbi opens up a fake fire extinguisher and contacts Robert. She says that she went to Plan B and has the toolbox, but she doesn't know where Mack is. And Bobbi hasn't found Daisy yet, but figures that Coulson took her somewhere far away from the base. And you can definitely see that they want to get Daisy on their side. Because, of course, what is the S.H.I.E.L.D. for? Helping out the Inhumans. That's really what it is. Because Coulson was not prepared for the Inhumans. Mack and Bobbi know what they're doing here, and they know how to take care of the Inhumans, and that's really why they formed this. So I definitely like seeing that. So Daisy's very bored at this point. She puts on on Jemma's gloves, and she then calls Jemma but gets her voicemail. And Daisy says that the gloves are making her feel woozy and notices a cable leading from the computer to the wall. And once she finishes the message, Daisy confirms there's a hollow behind the wall. Pries the panel open. The walls inside is metal and has a large fist-sized dent in it. There's a crackle of electricity, and Daisy realizes that someone's outside. She looks at the door but sees nothing. As she goes back inside, someone knocks on the door, and Gordon's there. And when he's there, I'm like, oh my god. I knew what was going to happen here. Gorden was going to talk to Daisy. He's going to ask her if he wants to join Cal's team, and it was about to get awesome. Now, he doesn't have the conversation with her in this episode, but I definitely feel like that is where this is headed, is that he's going to ask her to join Cal's team, and I think that's where, because obviously Cal wants to connect with Daisy, so I think that's really what's going on there. So Daisy lets him in, and she realizes that he can see. Even though he doesn't have eyes, he can actually see, which I thought was really interesting that we found that out. And Gorden says he's come there as a friend and is like her, and he had years to prepare for the transformation. Because again, Daisy's very unaware of her powers, and I love what he says to her, that he explains that he did used to have eyes, and the Terrigen mist changes everyone differently, and a mentor embraced him after his transformation. Gorden asked what S.H.I.E.L.D. did to her first, which is nothing. They didn't do anything to her. And I love this conversation they have because it really just shows how unprepared S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson's team really is. So Gemma's in the locker room, unaware of what happened when Bobbi comes in, and Fitz goes to the server room and starts initiating the manual lockdown. Coulson and Melinda meet in the main hangar and confirm that the bus and the Quinjet are both out, and Melinda points out that Hydra leaves bodies behind, but Bobbi and Mack haven't killed anyone yet, which is true. So they shouldn't be too worried about them because they're not Hydra. They know what they're doing, and all they're really doing is helping people. That's really what this is. They're helping out the Inhumans, and they shouldn't think of them as a threat because they're not killing anyone. And I like that Melinda said that because it's true. They're not killing anyone. They shouldn't be worried about them. They should let them do what they're doing because why should they be worried? They haven't done anything bad. So I like that she said that. I definitely thought that was really good. So Jemma basically tries to find. So basically, then Daisy is describing her power, and she doesn't know how to stop it. She can't stop it, and Gorden wonders why he wants to stop it. And he says that every object in the universe gives us vibration, and Daisy can tap into those vibrations. That's really her powers. That she is basically just produces sound waves, and she becomes magnificent. But someone is inhabiting her, and she explains about the gloves and Gorden wonders they protect others, but not Daisy. He assures Daisy that she can learn to manage her power, but warns that she doesn't have the understanding to be who she was meant to be. And Gorden offers to take her to a place where she can be with people like them, somewhere safe, and he says that he'll find her when she's ready. And he teleports away, and I thought that was a really great scene overall because it's really showing that Daisy should not be afraid of her powers. She should embrace these powers because she was gifted with these powers, and eventually she'll appreciate it. And we really start to see more of this episode, which I loved seeing. Honestly, it was one of my favorite parts of the episode. Jemma tries to find some equipment and says that someone's overriding their system directly. She sees a device into Bobbi's hand, and it shocks her unconscious. Jemma calls Coulson and Melinda. She has no idea what to do. And Fitz realizes that someone is preventing the manual lockdown. He doesn't know who, but he knows that someone's doing it. And Mack finds a device that Bobbi planted earlier, starts to remove it. Just as Mack comes in, tells him to stop, he advances and asks Fitz to trust him. So back to the day S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, Mack distracts Robert while Bobbi in a trainee case reset the commander's leg. Izzy comes in, says that Hydra's moving in, and Bobbi has her clear a path to the chopper. And before they go, Bobbi asks Izzy to give Lance her medal. And once Izzy goes on, Bobbi tells Mack that she'll meet them on the upper disc, and she explains that Nick Fury told her to go to the server core and sink the ship, and Mack warns that there's no way Bobbi can survive the explosion. And Robert says they're carrying a cargo that they can't let Hydra obtain. He and Mack both insist on going with her, and the two surviving trainees agree. And basically, Robert tells Bobbi that he's still the commander of the helicarrier, and he's going to help her finish the obelisk. So and finish the job, basically. So I thought that was really good when we saw that, because again, we're seeing why this all happened. And so then we go back to the present. Coulson handcuffs the unconscious Bobbi to a railing and takes the toolbox back. And meanwhile, Melinda searches Bobbi's locker and finds a secret compartment. And inside is a gas mask. And Melinda realizes what they plan on doing, because Coulson then sees gas coming in through the vents. And Fitz grabs a flashlight, tells Mack to stay back. And Mack hears something outside, tackles Fitz just as Robert and his people blast open the walls, stunning Mack. And Bobbi and the others, back to the day S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, they make their way to the server core, and Bobbi offers Mack her condolences on Tim's death, and they find Izzy taking out several Hydra agents, and says that S.H.I.E.L.D. has retaken the top deck, and basically, because of that, she came back, because now their S.H.I.E.L.D. is top deck, and Robert warns that they're outnumbered and the ship is already lost. However, Bobbi insists that they take the helicarrier. So back to the present, Robert's people lead Coulson out past Bobbi, who glares at her, and Robert says that Coulson will understand once they explain. There's no sign of Melinda, but no injuries except Mack, Weaver, and Caldurin arrive and report that their techs have checked the Quinjet logs and confirmed that Coulson took Daisy to the retreat, and Caldurin wants to take a team there to recover Daisy, and Bobbi wants to join them. And honestly, it's probably the best thing to do. I mean, help Daisy, make her more aware of her power, probably the best thing for them to do. And basically, the others agree, and she leaves with Caldurin, and meanwhile, Melinda watches them from hiding, and at the cabin, Skye considers what Gorden said, and then removes the gloves, and as she washes her arms in the sink, the water from the faucet takes on a spiral shape as she concentrates her power, and she starts to become more aware of her powers here, and I love this scene. I thought this was amazing to see, and I love what they're doing with Daisy. I love that Daisy's realizing that she has these powers, she should embrace it, and I really love that she took Gordon's advice there. So Jemma and Fitz are taken to the control room, and after a moment, Jemma offers her hand. Weaver comes over, and Jemma says that they didn't know if she was alive, and the agent explains that Caldurin rescued the Academy during the Hydra assault, and insists that Coulson has no right to call his organization S.H.I.E.L.D., which he doesn't, because they're S.H.I.E.L.D. They're not S.H.I.E.L.D. Right now, Weaver needs Jemma to check Mack and make sure that they miss anything, and after a moment, Jemma goes over, and they leave Fitz alone, and I thought that was really interesting, because we don't really know where Jemma and Fitz are going. I mean, to me, it seems like Gemma's going more towards Fitz and, Mack and Bobbi, but in some ways, it seems like Fitz could be going there as well. I really don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Fitz definitely, I don't know where he's going, but it definitely seems like Gemma's more likely to go to their team than Fitz is, so I really don't know. So Melinda sneaks onto the bus and calls Daisy. When Daisy answers, Melinda tells her to get out immediately. She gives her directions on how to shut down the laser grid fence and says that S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming for her, and the cabin lights go out, and Daisy runs outside. Of course, she's terrified. She has no idea what's going on. Quinjets are flying over the air and spot Daisy as she runs. One of them lands, and Bobbi and Caldurin take out their team, ordering them to use icers only. And then back to the day S.H.I.E.L.D. fell. The team goes back to the main control room, and Mack accesses the server core. He asks about the other agents fighting to take back the helicarrier, and says that Nick Fury is dead, and Izzy agrees with him. But Robert insists on following Nick's orders, and when the commander says that it's not a democracy, Bobbi says that maybe it should be, and says that they need to do something to stop Hydra. They have to stop Hydra somehow, and she tells Robert that they're taking back the ship whether he likes it or not. They ready their weapons, open fire as Hydra breaks in, and it's such a crazy scene. I mean, Hydra's coming in, and one of the things I love is that Bobbi and Mack are Bobbi definitely knows what they're doing, and they know how to attack people, and it just seems like Coulson's team is not as aware of that, and you can definitely see the differences between the two. So then we get to this amazing scene between Robert and Coulson, and I absolutely love the scene, because Robert tells Coulson that he was wrong that day, and if they had followed Nick Fury's orders, hundreds of agents would have been dead, and he insists that he has no desire to be the director, because of course Coulson's wondering, well, if you form this team, why didn't you just become the director? And I like that Robert tells him that he doesn't want to be a director, and points out that Nick Fury made Coulson as the new director, because he did, and Coulson can't, take that back. He's stuck in that position, and Robert points out that these secrets that brought S.H.I.E.L.D. down the first time, and they won't let it happen. But Coulson says that Hydra brought down S.H.I.E.L.D., not their secrets, but honestly, I kind of see his point, that those secrets that they had, it brought down S.H.I.E.L.D. It did. It made S.H.I.E.L.D. more powerful, and Hydra both of these were reasons that S.H.I.E.L.D. got brought down. But the secrets were a big part of it because, Hydra found out the secrets, wanted to bring down S.H.I.E.L.D. because they wanted to become more powerful, and that's why S.H.I.E.L.D. was brought down. So the commander gives a toolbox to a soldier and tells him to give it to Weaver and Fitzsimmons, and Coulson wonders if they'll help them, and Robert says that they'll let them make their own decisions. Melinda bursts in and knocks out Robert, and the guards was nicer. She frees Coulson, directs him to the secret passage, tells him to find Daisy before Robert's people do, and Weaver arrives with more soldiers, and Melinda immediately surrenders. But what they don't realize is that they do know what they're doing, and that they shouldn't be worried about these people because, Bobbi and Mack, they're not the enemies here. They're the good guys, and all they're trying to do is make S.H.I.E.L.D. stronger than it is and be ready for the Inhumans. They're just unaware of it, and I love seeing that. So well done. They're doing a very good job with showing that. So they search for S.H.I.E.L.D. Calduran tells Bobbi that Hydra released an enhanced at the Academy, and Bobbi insists that it isn't Daisy, and basically Daisy takes out. This is such an amazing scene, and the scene, Chloe Bennett's performance in this scene was just amazing. You see, and one of the things I like is that it's not really like dialogue or anything, it's just the look on her face. She's becoming aware of her power here, and it's amazing to watch this scene. Because Daisy's taking out a soldier, but he fires a shot first. Calduran and Bobbi come running. Calduran fires a pistol. Bobbi yells a warning. Daisy uses her powers to deflect the bullets, and the resulting shockwave shatters a tree near Bobbi and Calduran, knocking them back, blasting them down more trees for 100 yards. Daisy calls to Gorden for help. He teleports in, takes her away, and you can see that Daisy now knows her power, and she knows how powerful she is, and I loved seeing that in this episode, and I definitely feel like now Gorden is going to try to convince her to come to Cal's team, and I thought that was an amazing thing to see. And then the end of the episode, we see Coulson is sitting in a bar in Tahiti having a drink, and then Lance just casually walks in. He's now there, and I thought it was really funny. He casually walks in. He's like, I'll take a drink, and he casually tells Coulson that he's accepting Coulson's offer. He wants to be part of his team, and he doesn't want to be with Bobbi and Mack, and it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening there. So, I'm at the point where I don't exactly know what's going to happen, and I like that. I like that I don't really know what's going to happen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. every week. I'm always wondering what's going to happen, and, honestly, after this episode, I don't really know where we're headed. It seems like Melinda and Coulson and all of them, they don't realize that Bobbi and Mack and Robert, they are the good guys. They're trying to help out S.H.I.E.L.D., and they shouldn't think of them as the enemy. They should think of them as allies that are going to help them make their group stronger because they don't want S.H.I.E.L.D. to be brought down again. Really, they're not doing anything wrong there, and they should trust them, but they're not trusting them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. My favorite part of this episode, though, by far, is Daisy just becoming aware of her powers. I know that Gorden is going to talk to Daisy and ask her to join Cal's team, which I definitely feel like Daisy is definitely more likely to join Cal's team. Now that she's more aware of her powers, now she knows what's happening to her, I definitely feel like that's where we're headed, and I think that's awesome if we're headed there. I think that's really cool, and I can't wait to see what ends up happening there. Seeing the day S.H.I.E.L.D. fell was devastating to watch. It really was devastating to watch, I have to say, and especially because this show's TV PG, it went really far, I have to say, and I love how far they went with it. It was really graphic, and it honestly was just devastating to watch, and it was amazing to watch, and I love seeing it. It was really, really well done, in my opinion. Will Coulson listen to Robert? I mean, basically what Robert's telling Coulson that he just needs to be a stronger leader. And yeah, Coulson hasn't exactly acted as the director. He needs to think more as a director. He needs to be a better director. And I think the person that can make him a better director is Robert. I think Robert, even though he didn't want to be the director, I think he can help Coulson to become a better director, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there, because I think that's really interesting. Jemma and Fitz, I don't know where they're going. I don't know if they trust Coulson. I don't know if they want to work with Coulson. I'm very in the middle with them. I don't know where they're headed, and I like that I don't know where they're headed, because I just don't really know what's happening with them. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, and what do you guys think? Where do you think that Jemma and Fitz are headed? I really don't know where they side right now. There are points where I feel like they're allying with Daisy. There are points where I feel like they're allying with Bobbi and Mack. I really don't know what's going to happen there. Does Gorden know about Bobbi and Mack's team? Is he unaware of what's going on there? Definitely, I feel like Bobbi and Mack are going to try to get Daisy to join, because obviously they want to help out Daisy. Jemma, I think, is definitely going to try to join, because her main thing now is to help out Daisy. Daisy seems like is helping out herself now. It seems like Daisy's becoming more aware of her powers, and the more aware she becomes of her powers, the better prepared she will be to, basically become an Inhuman and know what she's doing. I'm interested in seeing definitely what's going to happen, and I think that's going to be really interesting. So overall, guys, it's really all I have to say about the episode. I know this wasn't as long as a review as you guys probably expected, especially because I said this was the best episode of the entire show, but that's just because of what's going on in the show now. I mean, it's all about trying to make S.H.I.E.L.D. stronger, and that's what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. needs to be. It's amazing what they're doing, and I love how they're setting things up. Now, one of the things I did hear someone say is that they're not setting up Age of Ultron right now. No, they're not setting up Age of Ultron. They're not, and what they're setting up is the Inhumans. They're setting up something that's going to happen years from now, and I love that they're doing that. It's amazing to watch that, and I think they're doing an amazing job with developing that, and I can't wait to see where else they go with it. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. That's in my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys in my next video, which is my review for Justified. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.